What's going on, everyone? Welcome back out to the Cleveland Pulse YouTube channel. I am your host, Justin Harold, and with me, as always, my co host, Jeff Santa. Today, we are breaking the news that Denzel Ward has received a 5-year, $100.5 million contract extension that includes $71.25 million guaranteed per source. At the age 24, Ward is the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. Jeff, we were trying to talk up some ideas for what we were going to do for videos this week, and this just falls right in our laps. So, how are you doing with this?
I'm doing good. Sometimes, waiting around, haven't talked Browns for a while. It just kind of works out that way. But you made a good point about the year, 2027, which I'll let you get into as well. But I believe I don't even know what this makes him. Top three highest paid. Xavier Howard got more, but I think you tend to see the guaranteed money. Maybe they'll take less, like on average per year, if the guaranteed money's good, and that's kind of what it looks like here. 70% of the contract is basically guaranteed. And that's for a lot of football players, your next snap could be your last snap. So they're looking at that heavy.
Yeah, and you mean he's the third highest paid on our team, correct? Because he's the highest paid cornerback
Is
this
that
season.
high? Is that highest?
That's what it says in the Adam Schefter tweet. So,
Real? Oh, I'm literally looking at it. Highest paid. Wow.
yeah, but with you alluding to top three, he is the bottom third of Deshaun Watson, Miles
Right.
Garrett, and Denzel Ward, with all their contracts ending in 2027, something that you were alluding to earlier. A lot of deals in the past year, if you're not counting like the last 3 to 4 months, I'm talking about, from this time last year, a lot of deals have been done during the season, during this off season, and still a couple to, hopefully be done. David Njoku still playing under the franchise tag right now, but you look at it, Deshaun Watson, Miles Garrett, who got done 2 years ago or 3 years ago, Wyatt Teller in the season, Joel Bitonio in the season, Nick Chubb right before the season started, and now Denzel Ward. You got six guys there that are your core players, and the majority of them are locked up till 2025.
Yeah, a lot of talent retention from Andrew Berry, something that we're not really familiar with as Browns fans. It's
Yeah.
good to see. But I mean, this is him being the highest paid cornerback. That is just kind of shows to me that the fans just get overly excited at the beginning. You want everybody to be signed. You want to have you want to sort these issues out early in the offseason. And that's just not how these guys make their money. Like this is extremely deep into the offseason. So it's just one of those things where he waited, Denzel's agents waited, and it paid off for him.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and it's very, very similar. I'll have to look up the numbers for the quarterback because I don't think he's that high paid because of when they acquired him. But this very much reminds me of a team similar to the Los Angeles Rams, where they have their top three players are locked
Right.
up for a presumed Super Bowl stretch. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford. You look at it on our side: Deshaun Watson, Miles Garrett, and now Denzel Ward, along with some key pieces like Nick Chubb in the offensive line. So a lot of like you said, retention that we've just never seen before. We've never seen it where you have a core group of guys. I just named a lot of them, and you're retaining the majority of them for the next 3 years at least, which is huge news because obviously last year going into the season we had a lot of hopes for another playoff push, another push to go a step beyond where we were, and now I think in reality you're thinking it's at this point it's make or break. Like this is
Oh
where you
yeah.
start to get in the conversation of you have all these guys, you have all these names. Now it's Super Bowl or bust. If you don't win the Super Bowl, the season's not a failure, but it's not a win either.
Yeah, I mean, you're investing a lot of money in these guys, and I think that which it takes a while for the cap numbers to come out because I'm sure it's not going to be, whatever. It's probably not going to be a $20 million cap hit this year, unless you do see Andrew Berry maybe taking the reverse approach on some contracts which I guess if you think about it, it might make sense. I don't know. We don't have a resident capologist, but if he backloads so many people, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him maybe front load some people if it's possible. Doubt that to be the case, but we'll figure that out and we'll see how it affects the cap this year. But I think when people see these big numbers and it's obviously crazy amounts of money, you got to take into account that it's rumored the cap space is going to keep increasing. The contract deals with the television networks, more players getting involved. They moved Thursday Night Football over to Amazon Prime. So, there's just more people entering the space. The sport of football, the NFL is only growing and it makes us so much money. So, Andrew Berry's betting on the salary cap going up big, I think.
Yeah, and the interesting part about getting into the contracts and something I'm not particularly good with is getting into like the minutia of it and like the guaranteed money because I'm looking
Right.
at it right now. The only person I think in the history of NFL contracts, Deshaun Watson is the only player to have his entire contract fully guaranteed.
Yep.
Then you go a step down and you go to Myles Garrett, who's only missing out on 25 million because he's got 100 million guaranteed. Denzel Ward is getting about 70 some million, so he's only missing 30 of that in non-guaranteed money, and the list just goes on and on. But I think a lot of that comes into play in how much like you said, the salary cap's going up. But if these players can get guaranteed money, and they might lose out on 20 to 30 million, what's that matter to if you're getting 70, 100 million?
Yeah, for sure. That's the big thing. And I mean, it's just like it's one of those things where it's the highest paid for now. I'm kind of just operating under that assumption for a lot of these like positional players just in general. It's like somebody else is going to come along, and if the salary cap goes up and someone's deal comes up, it's just a cyclical process of how you sign these guys. And he might not be the highest paid cornerback for very long.
Right. And it's just interesting now because I'm looking at the list of guys. Obviously, John Johnson is a guy who I didn't mention yet, but was a guy that we actually got in free agency,
Mm-hmm.
along with a guy like Jack Conklin, who might be out in the next year or two. But, um, you know, another guy who's here till 2024 and is getting a good chunk of his guaranteed money from his contract. So definitely something that I think, Jeff, you love doing the contract talk. I know you love doing it for guys on the Cavs and on different teams like Kevin Love, but might have to take a look at that after the draft or something and kind of
Yep.
I
Just
wonder.
just cap space, honestly. Like it's not even worth looking like to the next season just because things change so quickly, between trades and stuff like that, where it's basically we'll definitely look at this upcoming season for sure after we sign our rookies and probably right before the season starts.
Yeah, yeah. But Jeff, all that being said, anything else that you'd like to say before we call this one quits?
I'm on board for the move. I think it's just one of those things where it's easier to do this, even if it might be seen as an overpay, and it's just easier to do this instead of trying to find someone who you could say is like top 5 cornerback in the league. I think there's a good argument for Denzel Ward to be in that conversation, maybe even a little bit better than top 5. So it just makes sense. He's a Buckeye.
He's young.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, he's young. The age is really the big thing. Honestly, you're right. Like he's 24. Like it'll be fine.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, the oldest guy out of everyone that I talked about is Joel Batonio sitting at 30, and then
Right.
everyone else, the next oldest is 27. So I mean,
A
that's
lot
a
of young talent.
that's a lot of young talent at their prime. So like I said earlier, Super Bowl or bust at this point, and I'm sure we'll definitely get into that a lot more later on this season. But like I said, guys, thank you so much for coming out. We are going to try to pump out some more Browns content with the draft leading up in the next few weeks. So that being said, make sure you guys are subscribing, liking, leave us a comment what you guys think on this, whole deal and the Browns in general signing a bunch of core guys to the team for foreseeable future. So with that being said, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.